Thank you, An Garda, and I welcome the opportunity to contribute to the debate tonight on the Garda Síochána Amendment Number 2 bill. And I would like to just start off by paying tribute to Deputy Wallace for bringing forward this piece of legislation. And as we know, a very similar piece of legislation was brought forward last year into the House here, and the families and of the many people across the country who have suffered suffered grievous wrongs at the hands of Gardaí and Gardaí malpractice attended here in the House for that debate last year. And here we are 12 months on, and we're debating another amendment bill, and the same families will come here tonight again and tomorrow night. And that is wrong, and it shouldn't have taken this length of time. And I understand that maybe this bill might be accepted by the government, and I hope that it is, because then we might start to see the change that takes place. But Minister, there is too many people around the country who have suffered, and there's too many families who have suffered and continue to suffer because of wrongdoing, because of malpractice, because of illegality carried out by the Gardaí. And it's a symptom and a result of an organisation having unaccountable power. And that is what is at the root of this problem, and that's what this piece of legislation wants to end and wants to achieve. Any organisation, no matter what it is, in any state, that has power, that has huge amounts of power, that is unaccountable, will behave in a fashion like this. And it is an institutional problem within the Gardaí. It's a problem that individuals can, within the Gardaí, believe that they can act with impunity and can act in a way that impinges on citizens' rights and destroys citizens' lives and forces families to suffer for years and years and years afterwards because of events that have taken place. And one of those families that I know personally and have spoken to about their case is the family of Shane Toohey, who died many years ago in Clare, County Offaly, and in a way where it appears that he was assaulted and he fell into, or else was thrown into a river, and his body had to be searched for a number of days. The Gardaí actively hindered the search for his body. And I've participated on a number of searches in Donegal, tragic searches for people who were lost. And the Gardaí facilitated those searches, they coordinated it, they provided personnel for them. And any time I hear of a tragedy around the country where somebody's body goes missing or is lost in a river, I think of Shane Toohey's family, because the Gardaí actively hindered that search. And after his body was found, they hindered getting to the actual facts of what happened in relation to it. And that wrong continues on to this very day. And we need to get to a situation, and you, Minister, need to create a situation where families like the Tooheys can have their story heard, can have a proper investigation, and can receive some closure for events that have happened to them. And there's too many families like them around the country, and too many individuals in the same way. And also, Minister, the previous Minister, Shatter, I submitted to him evidence of a district court judge who used confidential information provided by Gardaí to secure an injunction against individuals in Donegal 16 years ago that is still in place and they cannot get removed. And what was Minister Shatter's response? In one of his last days in office, he wrote back to me and hiding behind constitutional provisions to say that he couldn't investigate it or he couldn't have any input into the case of a complaint against a district court judge. But he could investigate in terms of what the Gardaí did in providing the information to the judge that allowed him to get the injunction. And those things need to be dealt with. And I'm going to resubmit that evidence to yourself, Minister, and I hope that you would look at it in a more open manner. And these are the type of issues that have to be addressed. For too long as well in this country, there's been a provision of attacking the messenger, where we see that the whistleblowers are attacked, and we hear about ongoing attacks on Sergeant Maurice McCabe and over the allegations that he has made, which have proven to be true, which have led to the formation of a commission of investigation. And we see this all the time, and too many times. We had in Donegal the Maurice Tribunal, and at the time when the Maurice Tribunal was running, the whole concern within the Department of Justice, within officialdom and the political hierarchy in this House and in this country, was to ensure that it was contained within Donegal, that was a Donegal problem. It was up there they're different. That only goes on up there. But we know now that it has gone on all across the country, and an opportunity was lost in the Maurice Tribunal to deal with this once and for all and to deal for it properly. And now we have an opportunity to deal with it again. And I call on you, Minister, to make sure that it is dealt with properly now, to ensure that we have a Garda service and a police service in this state that people can be proud of, that the members who serve in it can be proud of, and that is accountable to an independent body and is accountable to every citizen in the state. And that is what's vitally important, and that's what's needed at this stage. This piece of legislation addresses all the things that have been highlighted as being wrong within An Garda Síochána. It provides for the appointment of an independent Garda Síochána board. It strengthens the GSOC and the role that they have, and I know that Deputy Wallace has said that it needs amendment at committee stage if it's accepted to strengthen that even further, and that's vitally important. The situation where GSOC has to use Gardaí to investigate allegations against Gardaí has to end. GSOC has to have its own investigators, has to have its own investigative powers, and has to be totally independent of the Gardaí when it's investigating allegations of wrongdoing. We need to increase the autonomy and independence of An Garda Síochána, and that's provided for in the bill. We have, as has been said, the power sharing arrangement between the board, the minister, and the Garda Commissioner. And we have to have the direct accountability of the Commissioner to the board rather than to the Minister. Because we have to break the political links that we have seen here in this House used by former Minister Shatter in making allegations against Deputy Wallace and using confidential information that he's been provided for by the Commissioner. Those things have to end, and they have to end from now and from now on. And that's not an easy task, and I know, Minister, it's a task that's going to take time, but the legislation is here and introduced in the House tonight, and that legislation can provide a road along the way. But I do believe, and I support what Deputy Claire Daly has said, that we do need a commission of investigation, or we need a commission where, somewhere along the lines of the Magdalen Laundries, as has been said, where people and families can come before and tell their stories and have their stories recognised and investigated. Because that's the only way to bring closure and to bring an end to the pain that those families are suffering through. And we have the opportunity now to do it, and we need to do it and make sure that it happens. And all through the last year, when this bill was debated here, we had all the government side deputies trotting out to say how great everything was and how wrong we were, and attacking the independent members for raising such very difficult issues. I'm glad to see that that has changed now. I hope to see that the government side will be coming out tonight and tomorrow night and actually supporting this piece of legislation, recognising and acknowledging everything that has gone on in the last year and that we now know. Revelations from the whistleblowers, the penalty points fiasco, the GSOC bugging fiasco, allegations of racial profiling within the Gardaí, then we have the Gearan report and the Commission of Investigation.
2 minutes.
And we need to make sure that all of that works and takes place, and I hope that everybody on the government benches will support this piece of legislation. We see the Labour Party highlighting how they published a document in 2000 calling for a Garda authority, and now they've published another document. But they did nothing while all these allegations were being brought out here. They did nothing during the debates that were happening here in this House in relation to what was going on and what was wrong. They did nothing, and they stood by their man when Minister Shatter was defending himself here in the House, rather than asking the questions. Well, maybe there is something going on here. Maybe there is something that we need to look at. Maybe there is something that we need to ask questions about. And for too long, the Labour Party has been the lapdog in government and standing back and letting these things happen. And we can't have that anymore. So, Minister, I know that you have been making a lot of the right statements since you become the Minister, and you've said that you were going to address a lot of these issues. This piece of legislation helps you along that road and has been drafted and is there and ready to go. So I call on you, Minister, to make sure that this legislation goes through the House, that we get the independent Garda board, that we get the changes to GSOC to allow GSOC to operate independently, and that we get what we need, which is a fully accountable and democratically accountable Garda service in this country, and the days when people have unaccountable power are ended for the betterment of everybody.